Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Insecure in Love: How Anxious Attachment Can Make You Feel Jealous, Needy, and Worried, and What You Can Do About It, by Leslie Becker-Phelps, Ph.D. Narrated by Susan Boyce. Introduction. And you lived happily ever after. Or at least you would if only you could be more interesting or more attractive, or if you weren't so needy, or if you could figure out what's wrong with you that makes your relationships never work out well. Maybe you've been with a partner for a long time, but you struggle with feeling that your partner keeps falling short and will never fill that hole in your heart. You also suspect that you are part of the problem. Whether single or in a relationship, many people believe that they'll never be happy in love. They feel lonely and want companionship. Not just a buddy to sit next to at a movie, but a friend, confidant, and lover to accompany them through that greatest of all adventures we call life. They often fear that their partners will bolt once they get to know, quote, the real me. Sometimes they feel that their partners appreciate the things they do, but this isn't enough. After all, what if their performance falters? Then there's the ever-present concern of whether anyone would truly be there for them if they let themselves be vulnerable by looking to that person for support, comfort, and reassurance. If you relate to any of these struggles, then this book is for you. As a clinical psychologist, I have treated many people with diverse variations on these themes. Over the years, they have opened their hearts and their lives to me, hoping for positive change, and I believe that most of them found it. Therapy provided them a way to discover the love they sought. It helped them to find inner healing and to choose partners who offered genuine love. With wiser choices, they created opportunities for growth and further healing. The result was that they improved their ability to enjoy and nurture happier, healthier relationships. You, like many of my patients, may be armed with lots of information, expert advice, or a, quote, proven formula for success in relationships. It might come from family and friends, self-help books and articles, or even from your therapist. You might have tried to meet Mr. or Ms. Right by socializing more, dating regularly, or honing your online profile. If you're already in a relationship, you might have practiced assertiveness and effective communication skills, as well as reminding yourself that you are worthy of love. But still, you struggle with feeling lonely and unlovable, or chronically fearing rejection. There is a reason for this, and there is a solution. As with almost everything else in life, you learn about relationships through experience. And since your first serious relationship began as an infant with your caretakers, that is where you began learning about relationships. I know that's one of the cliches of psychology, but it's also true. Your first lessons on how available and nurturing others will be when you need them, and on how lovable you yourself are, were based on the warmth, acceptance, and reassurance offered by your parents or others who took care of you. During the early months and years of your life, you developed a certain style of connecting with and attaching to others. Though you may not have been aware of this style until adolescence or adulthood, or maybe it's still unclear, your current style is probably fundamentally the same as what was nurtured in childhood. If your early experiences left you questioning your sense of being worthy of love, fearful of being rejected, or with an unquenchable thirst for reassurance, then you probably still feel this way. It could also be that painful experiences later in life intensified anxiety about relationships that previously lurked under the surface. But the basic vulnerability to this attachment-related anxiety probably developed in childhood. It's important to understand that attachment-related anxiety does not have to be in response to any obviously abusive or harmful parenting. In fact, it most often is not. Many people with attachment-related anxiety come from very loving homes. Unfortunately, their parents' own struggles or difficult or traumatic circumstances interfered with their being able to parent effectively, even when they truly loved their children. You might wonder, why would my attachment-related anxiety stubbornly stay with me through life? To answer this, think about the practically infinite number of interactions you had with your parents or other caretakers during your childhood, day after day, year after year. Really, stop and think about it. These interactions, though not all of equal weight, implicitly teach you how others are likely to respond to you and how worthy you are of being loved. Their messages layer one upon the other and fuse together, becoming part of the very fiber of your being. So, understandably, it's not easy to change. Not easy, but definitely possible. One important lesson that I've learned in doing therapy is that creating change is a bit like gardening. Just as a gardener doesn't reach into a seed and pull out a plant, a therapist doesn't reach into people and make them change. Rather, therapists provide people with what they need to grow. I listen to people, share my perceptions about them and their situation, offer compassion, and provide guidance. In response, they, hopefully, learn to see themselves differently, respond to themselves in new, more positive ways, feel encouraged to risk change — the unknown is always at least a little scary — and learn to be different. But all of this must happen at its own pace. It can be encouraged, but it cannot be forced. One crucial element in nurturing personal growth is developing greater self-awareness. This includes being aware of your thoughts, acknowledging and consciously experiencing your emotions, and understanding what makes you tick. These tasks can be difficult, especially when you are facing unpleasant or conflicting aspects of yourself. However, they give you a better appreciation for your struggles. Such self-awareness frequently helps people feel a greater sense of well-being and, by itself, often facilitates change, such as reducing attachment-related anxiety and nurturing healthier relationships. As important as self-awareness is, it's equally important to recognize that it occurs in the context of your relationship with yourself. And many people are too hard on themselves. Just as you would attend to a hurt child by being nurturing, it is extremely helpful to approach yourself in a compassionate manner. Together, self-awareness and a positive relation to yourself create a powerful force, a combination I call compassionate self-awareness. Blended properly, they are like Miracle-Gro for the soul. Approaching your relationship struggles from this perspective is what this book is about. Insecure in Love explains, in easy-to-understand language, how your relationship struggles first formed, what about this process makes change so hard, and how those difficulties can be overcome so that you can enjoy a secure, lasting love. While the main thrust of this book is to help you understand what you can do to find happiness in an intimate relationship, the ideas that I present can also help you to understand your partner better. Sometimes a window into your partner's world is exactly what you need to relate to him or her more compassionately, which in turn can help you to nurture a healthier relationship. Insecure in Love is divided into 4 parts. The first, the bedrock of all relationships, helps you to understand your relationship struggles in the context of attachment theory. The second part, discover your potential, being worthy of love, opens the door to change by helping you to identify obstacles to nurturing happy relationships. The third part, Compassionate Self-Awareness, the Antidote to Relationship Anxiety, explains how you can develop a more secure, intimate relationship with compassionate self-awareness, which is essentially being aware of your experiences while also relating to them in an accepting and compassionate manner. The fourth part, Lighting Up Your Love Life, offers suggestions for how, with a foundation of compassionate self-awareness, you can choose a good partner and nurture a happy, healthy relationship. Although you can listen to this book to get an overview, I have written it as a sort of guidebook. You might even consider it a guide for a very specific kind of gardening. Remember, growth will unfold at its own pace. Your job is to enable and encourage it with fertile soil and essential nutrients. To make the most of Insecure in Love, listen to it carefully. Underline or highlight ideas you connect with. Make notes. Listen to sections as necessary, perhaps even pausing in a given section to work on applying it to your life before moving on. Also, give yourself time to engage with the exercises, rather than just trying to, quote, get them done. I strongly suggest that you keep a journal to respond to the exercises, expand on your insights, and reflect on them later. Because the chapters build on each other, I sometimes refer to exercises in previous chapters and ask you to revisit them in completing new ones. Both my clinical practice and the research I cite are based primarily on heterosexual individuals and couples from Western cultures, so this book applies best to them. If you are from a different culture or have a different sexual orientation, you may find that you experience struggles that are beyond the scope of this book. In this case, you will still find the information on attachment styles and on developing compassionate self-awareness to be helpful, but you might want to supplement it with other relevant sources. Finally, you will notice that throughout this book I use many examples from therapy sessions. To maintain the complete confidentiality of my patients, each example is a composite of different people and the names are fictitious. Part 1. The Bedrock of All Relationships. Chapter 1. Early Connections, a Foundation for Love. To see a birth is to witness a miracle. No mother can resist wanting to hold, cuddle with, and tend to her newborn. And this is where the story of every person's life of relationships and love begins. Infants, quite literally, need their caregivers for survival. So, thanks to Mother Nature, infants are hardwired with a need to connect with others, and the wherewithal to do it. For instance, they like to look at people's faces, can get others to care for them by crying, and are usually comforted by being held or rocked. And of course, babies just look so darn cute that people want to care for them. All of this keeps their primary caregivers, usually their mothers and secondarily their fathers, interested in protecting and nurturing them. As children become mobile, their continued need for help to survive motivates them to stay close to their mothers. A little one who ventures out will look back to mommy for reassurance. It's in these early years, beginning with infancy, that people first learn how relationships can help them feel safe and can calm them when they are upset. Anyone who's had experience with babies and young children has observed these behaviors, but psychoanalyst John Bowlby began publishing ideas in the late 1950s about them as signs of an attachment system. He explained that they are designed to keep a, quote, stronger and/or wiser person, an attachment figure, close, so that the child can survive and feel safe. He also offered the revolutionary notion that in order for children to thrive, their attachment figures should be warm and emotionally available. This idea was in direct conflict with what mothers were taught at that time. The prevailing wisdom was that a sensitive, nurturing approach to child-rearing would make children clingy and too dependent. Instead, mothers were encouraged to keep an objective, rational distance, even when their children were upset or ill. Bowlby's ideas were generally rejected until researcher Mary Ainsworth helped him prove the truth of his theories through her work in the 1970s. As Wallen and Mickelinser and Shaver note, Ainsworth's studies helped show that through innumerable interactions with their parents, subtle or not so subtle, children develop a way of bonding that seeps into their very being. This way of bonding becomes a working model that sets their expectations for how others will respond to them, as well as for how they feel about themselves. Some time later, researchers showed that the attachment process was active in romantic love. While nature provides the attachment system as a way to ensure the child's survival, attachment bonds developed within that system are felt as love, in both childhood and adulthood. So it's no surprise that children seek the love of their parents as if their lives depend on it, which they do. Adults experience similar intense anxiety and painful sadness when the existence of their primary relationships, and the love those relationships offer, feels threatened. It's also no surprise that children who tend to get upset easily and have trouble being soothed by their parents also tend to struggle with being upset easily as adults, and are unable to find a consistent, reliable sense of soothing and safety in their romantic relationships. The basics of how you connect. Whom do you turn to when you are really upset? At those times, your attachment system is turned on, like turning on an internal homing device for which the target or home is an attachment figure. When an adult's system works well, he has a secure style of attachment. He seeks out his partner or other primary attachment figure for reassurance when he's upset. And once he finds her to be reliably available and effectively responsive, his attachment system turns off. He feels calm and comforted. But people with an insecure pattern of attachment don't fully or consistently find such comfort in their partners or in others, an indication that their homing device is malfunctioning. Current research suggests that attachment styles, whether secure or insecure, are fundamentally based on two underlying working models, or default ways of relating: a working model of self and a working model of others. The working model of self is your sense of how worthy or unworthy you feel of being loved. As you might imagine, when you feel unworthy of love, you also fear being rejected and struggle with attachment-related anxiety. You might recognize this as anxiety, a feeling of tension or nervousness. But you could also feel it as other distressing emotions, such as sadness, loneliness, or anger. Adults and children with a strong sense of unworthiness live as though their attachment system, or homing device for an attachment figure, is stuck in the fully on position. If you identify with this, you may be constantly in search of reassurance from an attachment figure and chronically feel alone, rejected, or in fear of rejection. And even at the less extreme levels of attachment-related anxiety, people can struggle with feeling somewhat inadequate and fear being unable to emotionally handle rejection. This book is designed to help you overcome such distress, whatever your level of attachment-related anxiety. People also have a working model of others, an expectation of whether or not others will be emotionally available to them. To the extent that they expect that others won't be there for them, they feel uncomfortable with getting close and want to avoid it. This is what psychologists call attachment-related avoidance. There are some people who are so sure that others won't be emotionally available that they decide to be fully self-reliant. They do everything they can to try to keep themselves from feeling the need to depend on someone else. It's as if their attachment system, or homing device, is stuck in the off position. Exercise. How much anxiety and avoidance do you feel in your relationships? To learn how much attachment-related anxiety and attachment-related avoidance you experience, consider how well you fit the paragraphs here. Rate yourself on a scale from 0 to 10, with 0 being not at all, and 10 being that you completely relate. Hold on to these numbers so that you can use them later in assessing your attachment style. Attachment-related anxiety. Being totally emotionally close with my partner means everything to me. But other people don't want to be as close as I would like to be, and my desire to be so close often scares them away. When I have a partner, I question myself and am concerned that I'm not as good as him or other people. I'm always worried that he doesn't care about me as much as I care about him. And I also worry all the time about whether my partner really loves me, will stop loving me, or will decide to leave me. I'm especially worried that he'll find someone else when we are not together. Attachment-related avoidance. I am an independent, self-sufficient person, so I don't need to be in a close, committed relationship. When I am in such a relationship, I prefer not to depend on my partner or to share deeply personal thoughts and feelings. And it makes me uncomfortable when my partner wants to depend on me or to talk a lot about his thoughts and feelings. When I have problems, I tend to keep them to myself and figure them out on my own, and I'd prefer it if my partner would do the same. 4 styles of attachment. As I've explained, attachment styles can best be understood by combining the way people relate to themselves, which can create anxiety, and to others, which can result in avoidance. By dividing the dimensions of anxiety and avoidance into high and low, the following 4 possible combinations are created. Preoccupied, high anxiety, low avoidance. Fearful, high anxiety, high avoidance. Dismissing, low anxiety, high avoidance. Secure, low anxiety, low avoidance. The original research in attachment theory labeled the attachment styles as being categorically different from each other, just as a woman and a fish are categorically different, unless you are given to believing in mermaids. However, current research shows that this simply isn't true. Instead, different attachment styles represent blurry groups that reveal tendencies but should not be taken too literally. Combining levels of avoidance and anxiety works a lot like mixing 2 primary colors. Red and yellow make orange. However, adding just a little yellow to red creates an orangey red, and adding just a little red to yellow creates an orangey yellow. A similar dynamic occurs with the 2 dimensions of attachment. Consider Anne, who is high in anxiety and very low in avoidance, and Dan, who is also high in anxiety but just a little low in avoidance. Both people have a preoccupied style of attachment. However, Dan is more similar to people with a fearful style. Along a similar line of thinking, you might belong more in the dismissing or secure category of attachment, but be closer to the anxious end of that grouping. In that case, you will relate to many of the struggles of anxiously attached people without actually being clearly anxiously attached. For this reason, you will also benefit from listening to this book. By understanding the blurriness of these groupings, you will be able to use this book more effectively. It is tempting to assess your style of attachment and then pigeonhole yourself. For instance, You might think of yourself as having a preoccupied or fearful attachment style. However, you would not be taking all aspects of you, the unique person that you are, into account. The best way to reduce your relationship anxiety and improve yourself is based largely on self-understanding. So when you hear about the 4 attachment styles, think about how much you relate to each one, not just which category you fit in. It's also important to recognize that your attachment style can change with experience. For instance, consider Heather. She had always felt inadequate as a person and exhibited a preoccupied attachment style. Her husband, Alan, reinforced this feeling with his frequent focus on her mistakes and shortcomings. He eventually divorced her, leaving her to struggle even more with a deeper sense of being unlovable. But with therapy, she began seriously questioning this negative view of herself. For instance, she was able to realize that Alan had been overly critical. Then she met Sam, who valued her thoughtfulness and creativity. She basked in his love and warmth, which melted her remaining self-rejection and helped her to feel more comfortable with being valued by someone else. Romantic relationships often serve as a special opportunity for you to revise your attachment style so as to be healthier, an opportunity that this book can help you to realize. In addition to assessing your own style of attachment, think about the other styles too. Consider the styles of your current or past partners, or even your friends and colleagues. Your attachment-related anxiety can prompt you to make quick and often inaccurate emotional judgments of others. As a result, you might misunderstand your partner's emotions, struggles, and behaviors. This can cause significant problems in your relationship. By understanding your partner's attachment style better, you can understand him and the dynamics between the two of you better. Also, by having a good grasp of secure attachment, you can understand the benefits of working toward this for yourself, and you can understand how having a securely attached partner can help you. One last important caveat before you hear about the attachment styles. A simple hearing of these styles will leave you with the impression that the only good way to have a healthy relationship is to have a secure attachment style. This impression would be wrong. The best way to attach is to have a romantic relationship that makes you happy. If you tend toward having a preoccupied style of attachment and are married to someone who also has that tendency, but the two of you are happy, then trust in that. Enjoy it. Your style and life circumstances are right for you. As it happens, one significant way, but not the only way, of finding happiness in your relationship when you are unhappy is to move toward a more secure style. But as you evaluate your life and what you might want to change, it is important that you keep your eye on the real prize: happiness in love. Secure attachment. Happy in love. Sue is basically a happy person. She loves her work as an elementary school teacher and thinks of herself as very good at it. In her off hours, she enjoys playing tennis and hiking with two of her close girlfriends. She is also happily engaged to Keith, whom she unhesitatingly trusts and relies on for support. Of course, no relationship is perfect. For instance, there was the time when he stood her up for dinner because he forgot about their plans. In the immortal words of Ricky Ricardo, he had lots of splainin' to do. But even in that sort of situation, when she gets angry with him, they are able to talk through their problems, and she ends up feeling that he really cares. Like approximately 60% of people, Sue is securely attached. Securely attached individuals are basically comfortable with their full range of emotions and feel like lovable, good, caring, competent people. They are also inclined to think of their partners as trustworthy, well-intentioned, sensitive, and emotionally there for them. So they are happy with themselves and in their relationships. Just as they are comfortable with their relationships in general, securely attached...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?